Hello everybody, welcome to linuxin.com YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to talk about Python. So this is a course in which we have selected 21 exclusive topics for you, and we're going to take you step by step, okay? So at the end of this video you'd be able to understand Python, and maybe you'd be able to do some advanced stuff on your own, okay? So maybe you'd create some apps or something like that. All right, so it is not just about Python, it's about understanding programming. Okay, so the way I'm gonna explain to you the concepts and code line by line, it would be very easy for you to understand coding at all. Okay, so if we talk about the introduction, then Python is a high level interpreted scripting language, and it was developed in the late 1980s. Later on it had two versions. One was 2.0, which was released in 2000, and the other one was like 3.0, which contained a few relatively small but significant changes that were not backward compatible with 2.0. Okay, so now the versions come in the form of 2.x and 3.x. So right now I think the version going on is 2.7, and the other one is going on, I think it's 3.3 or something, okay, at the time of the making of this video. So the idea is that you can work with both versions of Python, and there are like a minute difference between these two versions of Python. So we have a separate video on this channel about that. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna put the link in the description to that video, differences between Python 2 and Python 3. So you can go ahead and you can basically watch that video. Okay, so the one thing that you could ask, that why choose Python, right? So the idea is that if you're going to write programs, there are literally dozens of commonly used languages to choose from. So if you have to choose Python, here are some of the features that I'm going to explain. So one is that Python is popular. All right, so it has been growing in popularity over the last few years. And if you were familiar with Stack Overflow, then in the 2018 that survey ranked Python as the seventh most popular and the #1 most wanted technology language of the year. Okay, so Stack Overflow is like a website where all the developers come and they find answers to their problems. So that website actually took a survey from developers, and the popularity of Python is becoming like more and more, it's increasing. So that's why they selected it as #1 development language, as a lot of developers, they are shifting to Python because it's very easy, right? So if you want to automate it, you can also do that. You can name it whatever you want to do, Python can do it. All right, as a programmer or as a developer. So not as some random man. You cannot like create a car or something like that in Python, but as a developer, whatever a developer wants to do, he or she can do it in Python. Okay, so the next thing that I would say, that Python is interpreted, right? That is another advantage. So the idea is that many languages are compiled, meaning that source code you create needs to be translated into machine code, the language of your computer's process. Okay, so your processor of the computer has a machine language, like zeros, in the form of zeros and ones. You can say a binary language. Okay, so your computer actually doesn't understand English or the syntax that you write. Okay, so you have to convert, when you're basically writing a code, you have to convert that into the machine language that your computer basically understands, and then basically it executes on that. Okay, so the language that computer understands is binary, which is like zeros and ones. So it doesn't understand English. So the idea is that in order to run or execute the code, you need compilers, but that's not the case in Python. Okay, so programs that are written in an interpreted language, which is Python, they are passed straight to an interpreter that runs them directly. Okay, they don't need to be compiled. So the idea is that interpreter makes it quicker, and then you have the development life cycle. which is like a lot more quicker than other programming languages, because you just type in your code and you run it without the intermediate compilation step, right? So one potential downside to interpreted language is execution speed. So programs that are compiled into the native language of the computer processor, they tend to run more quickly than interpreted programs. But for some applications that are particularly, computationally intensive, like we have graphics processing or intense number crunching, this can be limiting. Okay, so in practice, however, for most programs, the difference in execution speed is measured in milliseconds or even seconds at most. All right. So the expediency of coding in an interpreted language is typically worth it for most application. I'm not saying all application, but I say for most application. The other thing is that you might have to pay for some of the other programming languages, and in order to develop code in that, but Python is basically free. Okay, so it is OSI approved, which is like open source license. That difference between open sourcing and the other software packages is that open source is like available, and then in order to mold into something, obviously you have to do your own work. Okay, so the other thing is that Python is portable. So because Python is interpreted and not compiled into native machine instructions, the code, it can be written for one platform, which will work on any other platform that has the Python interpreted installed. So as far as simplicity of a programming language is concerned, you cannot beat Python. So as programming languages go, Python is relatively uncluttered, and the developers have deliberately kept it that way. Okay, so a rough estimate of the complexity of a language can be gleaned from the number of keywords or reserved words in the language. So these are the words that are reserved for special meaning by the compiler or interpreter, because they designated specific built-in functionality of the languages, right? So Python 3 has a 33 keywords and Python 2 has 31, right? So Python code has simple and clean structure that is very easy to learn and easy to read. Remember that indentation thing. If you're following our videos on Python or this YouTube channel, then you know that indentation is fairly and very important concept in Python. So in other programming languages, if your code is like not indented, it's not a problem, it's not a big deal. But in Python, if your code has it doesn't if it doesn't have any indentation, it would give you an error, right? So the idea is that when you talk about simplicity, Python is simple, but it is not that simple, because it is an object oriented programming as well. So the idea is that Python, it supports most constructs that would be expected in a very high level language. Okay, so it also includes dynamic data types, structured and functional programming, and object oriented programming. Okay, so it happens at some time that a few of the programming languages like C++ and Java, if they're supporting, they're object-oriented programming languages, right? They are not functional programming languages. But Python, it supports both. It is an object-oriented programming language, and it is a functional programming language as well. Additionally, it has an extensible library from which you can choose, right? So I hope I have made a point, and now you know that what Python is and what it can do. So let's move on to the next topic, which is topic number 2, which is related to Python installation. Okay, so the idea is that in Linux, on your Ubuntu machine, if you want to install Python, it is fairly simple. So first of all, you have to press Ctrl Alt T to open up your terminal. Okay, and in here, if you want to see if the Python is already installed on your system or not, all you have to do is you have to write here Python. Okay, so right now, if Python is installed, you can see here I've got something like this, right? So here I can like write here like print hi, and you can see that it has printed it out. So it's an interpreter and it's working, right? But if you won't have Python installed on your system, it would give you an error here instead of giving you this. Okay, so just remember that. So let's say if you don't have Python installed on your system, then you would just write here a command sudo apt get install Python. Okay, so when you would write here Python and you would hit enter, it would start to install this, like Python. All right, but if you want to install, like, you can see that I already have Python installed, so I don't need to like reinstall it. But in your case, let's say if you want to install Python 3, then you have to write here explicitly Python 3. Okay, or you can also install it using pip module as well. Okay, so if you would do something like this, sudo apt get install Python, then it would install Python 2.7. okay, it would install Python 2 version, and if you would write here explicitly Python 3, then it would install Python 3 version. And as I've told you that we have a video with the differences between Python 2 and 3. They are very minute, but it's worth watching that video. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put the link in the description where you can go and you can watch this. Okay, so once you have installed Python by writing this command, after that what we can do, that we can start writing code. Okay, so there are two fundamental ways in which you can write your Python code. One is in the interpreter. So for example, if I write here Python, if I hit enter, it would open up the interpreter for me, right? So here I can write anything that I want. I can write here the code like hello world. All right, and if I hit enter, I would get the sort of an output. Okay, the other way is that we can basically create a script separately using some editor. Whatever your favorite editor is, you can open it up and then you can write a code in there, Python code, and then you can save that file with the extension of .py. Okay, so when you will save it with .py, Linux would recognize that it is a Python script, and it would help you save it as a Python script. Okay, so on your file a little bit of Python icon would appear because your Python is already installed on your system. Okay, so if without installation you try to save that with .py extension, you would probably not be able to see that small Python icon. Okay, so I'll show you in a while. So the idea is that now we have done it with the interpreter. So now what we can do is that we can use our favorite editor to write a Python script. Okay, so you can use any of your favorite editor. It could be Nano editor, it could be Notepad++. You can say that Notepad++ is only available on Windows, but that's not true. You can also install that in Linux using Wine. Okay, so we have created a separate video on that as well, so I'm gonna put the link to that video in the description as well. So Notepad++, you can have Atom. Okay, your favorite text editor, whatever it is. Okay, so my favorite text editor is gedit, like the simple available Linux editor. Okay, so I'll simply use that. So now I'll come out of the interpreter. That was the one way of writing the Python code. So let me just clear it. So what I can do now is that I can go here. Simply I can open the Python text editor, and basically what I can do, that I can save it on my desktop as a Python script. Okay, so what I can do, I can write here, let me just write here the name of the script that I want it to save as. So I'll write here hello.py. Okay, so py is the extension and it would recognize it as a Python script. So I just write here print, and then I would write here hello world. Okay, so if I save it, you can see that the color has changed, right? So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go to my terminal. I'm gonna go to my desktop because that's where my script resides, right? So if I list here, you can see that I have only one file on my desktop, which is hello.py. So I can execute it by writing here Python, and then I can write here the script name, which is essentially hello.py, And now if I hit enter, you can see that I have the result as hello world. Okay, so this is how you print anything in Python, and this is how you basically write and then run a script. Okay, so I can write here anything, like, you know, like anything, I can print it out. So let's say if I write here, this is Linux hint, and I basically copy it. Let me just print it multiple times. So let's say I print it like 5 times. Okay, so I'll show you that how can you write it 1 time and then print it 5 times as well. That's related to that's the topic related to loops. All right, so for now we want to print it for 5 times, so we just pasted it 5 times. And now if we save it, we go back to our desktop or our terminal, and we write here python hello.py. If I hit enter, you can see that we have this output here. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna move to our next topic, which is variables in Python. So the idea is that a Python variable is a reserved memory location to store values. Okay, in other words, a variable in a Python program, it gives data to the computer for processing. Every value in Python has a data type. Different data types in Python, we would basically discuss that in the next topic. Okay, so the idea is that if you talk about how to declare a variable in Python, that is very simple. So you don't have to write any data type like in other programming languages. You just have to type in like you know, the variable name, and you're done. So for example, if we have a variable, let's say x, and we have it equals to, let's say, 10, all we have to do, we can just do print x, and it would basically takes the value of the x and it would print it out on the screen. So what happens is that x is a variable which would store this value in itself. Okay, so now instead of printing out 10, what we can do is that we can print x, and it would print out 10, right? So if we save it, we go to our terminal and we try to run our script, you can see that we have the result 10 here. Okay, so if we change the value of the variable, like let's say from 10, if we change it to 15, and if we save it, we come back here. Now this time, after running the program, it would print out 15. Okay, so you can also redeclare a variable as well. Okay, so redeclaring means that you're basically changing it. Like for example, we have x equals 15. So now what we can do, we can have x equals 20, let's say, and then we can basically print x. Okay, so what would happen now, that it would print both 15 and 20 as well, as we have redeclared it. Okay, so you can also change the data types even. So for example, we have x equals 20 here, so we can have x equals, let's say, hello, and if we save it, we go back here, we run it, you can see that we have 15 and then we have hello. So we have redeclared it as a string as well. Okay, so you can basically change it. So there is another thing with variables that you can do, and that is basically you can initialize a variable. So the idea is that when you're working with programming languages, there is a chance that you might have a garbage value from the previous program that you have run, and that is basically saved in the programming in the memory of the computer. Okay, is that when you're working with different programming languages, you might have a garbage value in the memory of your computer. Okay, so in your computer you might have run different programs, and you might have used the same variable name, and it might have a garbage value. Garbage value is some random value which has not been flushed from the memory. Okay, so in order to flush it, what you can do is that you can initialize your variable like this, x equals 0, and you can also basically put another value in x like 13. So now basically what this is the initialization of the variable. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So what you can also do is that you can concatenate two variables. So there is another concept of global variables and local variables. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that you can basically identify that concept with a better example. So I'm gonna leave this example of global and local variables till our function topic. I guess we have it somewhere here. Oh, so I have not included functions here, I think. So what I can do that I can include as 24th topic as functions. Okay, so we'll discuss functions in the end, and here would basically discuss local and global variables as well. Okay, so local and global variables, they are like global variable that can be accessed from anywhere in the code, and the local variable that is like its accessibility is restricted. Okay, so you cannot access local variables outside a specific territory of the code. Okay, so for example, if you have a function and inside the body of the function you have declared a variable, then you cannot actually access it outside the body of the function. Okay, so the function is basically just a piece of a code, right? So the limited accessibility of that variable would be just inside the function block. Okay, so that is a local variable, while on the other hand, if you're writing a code and on top of the code you have declared a variable, you can access it anywhere in the code. Like for example, you can even access that inside the function's body as well, okay, where the local variable resides. But the idea is that in case of local variable, you cannot really access it outside the local body. All right, so that was the main concept, but we'll basically do an example when we'll discuss functions. All right. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic, which is topic number 5, that is related to Python data types. So data types are the classification or categorization of data items. So data types represent a kind of value which determines what operations can be performed on that data. So numeric, non-numeric, and Boolean, which is related to true and false data, they are the most used data types in Python. Okay, so if we talk about other programming languages, they have their own classification, largely reflecting its programming philosophy. Okay, so Python, it has standard or built-in data types. Okay, so if we talk about the numeric data type, it has integer, it has float, it has complex numbers. Okay, so as we have discussed in the previous variables topic, you just need to write the variable name and then you write the data. So it automatically identifies that which kind of data type it is, and then it treats it that way. Okay, so you don't have to specifically specify, like in Java or in C++, you do like int, you write specifically int or float or string, these data types, along with the variable name. In Python, you don't have to do it. You just write the variable name and then you give it a data, and it automatically identify the data, okay, the data type of the data, and then it basically assigns that specific data type to the variable. All right, so that's automatic and that's handy in Python. So if we talk about integers, obviously you know that it's like positive or negative whole numbers, okay, without a fractional part. And if we talk about float, it is like any real number with a floating point representation, in which you have a fractional component, okay, which can also be denoted by a decimal symbol or scientific notation. So there is another data type in Python, which is complex number. So a number with a real and imaginary component represented, like maybe x plus y and z. X and y are floats, and basically z is like -1, which is like square root of -1, called an imaginary number. Okay, so Boolean, if you talk about Boolean data type, that is the data type with one of two built-in true values, like one is true and the other one is false. Okay, so you have to notice that so the other other data type, that's not like a data type, but it is like a sequence type. Okay, Basically, a sequence is an ordered collection of similar or different data types in Python. Okay, Python has like string, list, and tuples, and dictionary as well. So we'll discuss each of them separately. We have those topics, we'll just leave that for that. Okay, but string, if we talk about string, it is just a value which is a collection of one or more characters put in basically a single or double or triple quotes. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic, which is numbers in Python. Okay, so let's talk about numbers in Python. So the idea is that there are three numeric or number types in Python. I have explained to you that in data types, but I'll explain that to you again. Okay, so there are basically three numeric types: integer, float, and complex. Okay, so variables of numeric types are created basically whenever you are going to assign them a value. Okay, so if you don't assign a value, there is no integer or other variable. You cannot just simply initialize it without having a number. Okay, so you have to assign a number to a variable, then it would be called a numeric number or numeric data type. Okay, so the idea is that there are, as I've explained to you, we have integer and float and complex numbers. So for example, if we have like a equals 8, this is an integer. If we have b equals 8.2, this is a float. And if we have like c equals 1j, this is a complex number. Okay, so to verify the type of it, what we can do is that we can save it, and not actually save it, but we can come along here and we can print something. Okay, so we can print like print, and then we can have a type, and here we can have a. Okay, so if we do that, what we would get, so we'd go ahead to our terminal and we try to run our code. You can see that it has given it as a type, and which is integer. Okay, so it tells that a is of integer type, right? So we can do the same thing for b and c as well. So we'll just copy this line here, and we just change the variable name, which is c, and here we change it to b. Okay, so if we save it, we go ahead, we run our code, you can see that we have the data type integer, float, and complex. Okay, so these are the data types. All right, so if we don't assign a value to the variable, it cannot really tell that which data type it is. So for example, if we just have here a, let's keep it that way. So if we save it, we go back, we run it, you can see that it is giving us an error. So it's saying that a is not defined, so a has to be defined, right? So it is a must. Okay, so this is an integer, float, and a complex. Okay, so if you talk about like working with numbers, you can also basically work with them. So if let's say that I have a negative of them, like -9 or maybe -8.2, it would still recognize them as a as their true data type. So for example, if I put here -1j, okay, so if I save it, if I go here, I try to run my code, you can see that it has still recognized them as integer, float, and complex. Okay, so adding or removing this negative sign won't really make a difference. It would still recognize them with their data types. Okay, so what you can do is that you can also basically have numbers and you can multiply them. So for example, if you have b equals 9 and you have if you have a equals 9 and if you have b equals 89, and then you have another variable c which basically does a plus b, and then finally you print c, so it would basically work. Okay, so let me just write here like this. You can see that result is 98. All right, so in the similar way, you can basically do other mathematical operations. For example, if I do something like this, b minus a, and if I save it, I go back here, try to run my program. You can see the result is 80, right? And if I try to multiply it, I'll still be able to do it. So if I go back, run my program, I have 801. Okay, if I want to divide it, I can still do it. If I go here, I run it, you can see that I have a result 9. Okay, so why it has basically given us 9? Because we are dividing two integer numbers, and it would not basically automatically convert them into a float. Okay, so C is also an integer as well. All right, so if we would do something like this, like 89.9, and we do 9.2, and if we save it, and now if we go back, run it, you can see that now the result is in decimal point, because that was a fraction, that was a float number in fraction. Okay, so previously it wasn't. So let's say if we are doing something like this, one is integer, other one is float, then let's see what happens. So it's still consider that as a float, and it gives you the result in points and decimal numbers. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. That was all about numbers. So now let's move on to the next topic, and let's discuss strings in Python. So the idea is that if we talk about strings, strings in Python, they are surrounded by either single quotation marks or double quotation marks. Okay, so we can have triple quotation marks as well. I'll explain that to you later. That is for like multi-line strings, but for one line string you can have like single quote or double quote. Okay, both would work. So for example, if we go back to our script here, and if we have like something like print hello world with double quotes, okay, and if we have print hello world with single quotes, both of them would work. Okay, so if we save it, we go back here, try to run our script, you can see that we have hello world and hello world. Okay, so the O was like here was capital, so that's why it was showing capital. Otherwise you'd be able to see that we have the same output. Okay, so for both of them, right, with single quotes and with double quotes. So that was a literal string, and now if you want to assign to a variable that string, you can also do that. So for example, if we have here, let's say a equals and then we assign this like hello, and we can also assign it with single quotes hello, and if we come out here now, if we print a and then we basically print b, we would get the same thing, right? So we run it, you can see that we have hello and hello, right? So single quotes and double quotes for one line. So if we talk about having a multi-line string, we can also have that. So for example, if we have here x, and then we have here 3 quotes, and obviously we need to have 3 quotes here as well, and in here we can write anything. So we write here, this is Linux hint .com YouTube channel, and we put a lot of free content here on this channel. Okay, so this is like a multi-line string. Okay, so with double quotes and single quotes, it would actually throw an error, so we need to have triple double quotes or triple single quotes here. Okay, so now if we go ahead and we try to print x and we save it, let's see what we have. We have this multi-line string. Okay, so that's how you basically run your multi-line string. What you can also do is that you can have single quotes here instead of double quotes, like 3 single quotes you need to have. So we'll just have them. Okay, so we save it, we run again, we get approximately the same result. Not approximately, but exactly the same result. Okay, so the string, they also work as like arrays. All right, so you can actually pinpoint to an index and you can get what you want. Okay, so for example, like many other popular programming languages, strings in Python, they are arrays. Okay, so they're bytes, they represent Unicode characters. Okay, so Python, it does not have a character data type, as we have discussed in data type, right? A single character is simply a string with a length of 1. Okay, so the idea is that what if you want to pick up a character, or what if you want to pick up one alphabet or one piece of string? So how would you do that? So for example, we have here x equals hello world. Okay, so if we want to pick up one character, how would I do that? So I would just write here print, and then I would write here, let's say x, and then I would write here the index, which is 1. So we save it, we go here, we run our script, and you can see that it has picked up E. Okay, so E is like 1. So if I write here 0, the index starts from 0 in an array as well, if you're familiar with arrays. So if I write here this, so if I write here 0, what would happen is that if I run it, you can see that I've got here H. So if I write here 5, I just simply like this, you can see that I've got an empty space because on the index 5 we have this space. Alright, if I change it to, like, let's say 7, what should it print? Okay, so you can actually predict it's O, right? O from the word. Alright, so the next thing in the strings that you can do is that you can slice it. Okay, slicing means that you can return a range of characters by using this syntax that I'm going to show you. Okay, so you have to specify the start index and the end index separated by a colon. Alright, so basically when you would do that, it would return that specific part of the string. So for example, let me just go here, and instead of having here 7, what I can do it like 1 till 7. Okay, so now what it would do, it would return me from E till O. Okay, E included. So now if I just save it, if I run it, you can see that it has basically printed out all of that. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Alright, so I hope the idea is that the last range, it would actually print out 1 less. So for example, if I have here 8, it would print out till 7. If I would have here 9, it would print out till 8. So for example, till 9 it should print out till R. Okay, so till R it's the 8 indexed. Alright, so if I save it, I go here, I run it, you can see that it has printed out till R, but the actual 9th index was till L. Alright, so it would print out 1 less. So now let's move on to the next thing that we can do with the string, and that is basically negative indexing. Okay, so if you want to start the string, the slicing of the string from the end, then you can basically use negative indexing. Okay, so for example, if we want to do that from 9 to 1, all we have to do is that we have to add a negative sign here. It would basically print out in a reverse order. Okay, whatever we were trying to print out straight. So I'll just keep it that way and run it. You can see that this time it has basically reversed it. Okay, so if you can see here, so that was related to the negative indexing. And if you want to talk about the built-in functions inside the string, you can also use them. So for example, if I want to know the length of this string, all I have to do is that I can use a built-in function like this, length x. So if I save it, I go back here, I try to run it, you can see that 11 is the total length of this string. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. Alright, so you can count it yourself as well. Okay, so the other strings method that we have is like we have a strip method that basically removes the white spaces from our program, okay, or from our string. So now let's say let's give white spaces intentionally. So we'll just give white space like this, and here we give a white space as well. Okay, so we save it, and if we go ahead and we try to run our a code, but before that we need to add a method here that I forgot to add. So we just write here x dot strip. All right, and I don't need to pass any argument through that. Okay, so now if we save it, we go back here, we run our script, you can see that it has returned hello world, okay, instead of like the extra white spaces. Okay, I hope you've got the point. So in your program you might have, you know, extra white spaces, like when you're using double triple quotes, right? It would still work using this one right here. Okay, so now there is another method that we're going to talk about, which is a lower method that returns the string in lower cases, right? So we have hello world, so we have H in the uppercase and the W in the uppercase, and let's see what it does. So we just write here lower, we save it, we come back here, we try to run our script like this, we hit enter, and you can see that it has basically changed it to the lower. Okay, so and you can see that without strip it is basically having white spaces, and it has printed out like one space forward right here, you can see. Okay, but with strip it was printing it out just as normal as white spaces does not exist. Okay, so it was printing out like that. All right, so we'll save it, and we have hello world all in small, but we have here H and W capital, and similarly we can have all that in uppercase as well by using upper here. Okay, so if we write here upper, we save it, we come back here, we run it, you can see that we have hello world, okay, all in capital. So the other thing is that we can actually replace a string with another string as well. So for example, a first argument that in this method you would have is the, you know, the element that you want to replace, and the second argument would be the element that you are going to put in after replacing the old element. Okay, so for that what you would do, you would just simply write here x, then you would write here dot replace. Okay, so for example, if we want to replace W in the string, so what we would do, we just write here W inside double quotes as the first argument, and then as a second argument we'll just write here the one that we want to replace it with. So for example, if we want to replace it with we, let's say. So now if I save it, I go ahead, I try to run my code, you can see that it has been replaced, and now we have hello world. Okay, so you can see it right here. Okay, so now the idea is that you also have another function, and that would be basically the last function that we discuss in this topic, and that is basically a split function. Okay, so if you want to split two strings, you can also do that. So for example, if we write here in the code, you know, x dot split, all right, x dot split, and if we write here like from where we want to split, so for example, if we want to split like from W, okay, or if we want to split it like from space, we can also do that. Then it would split it like hello and world. Okay, but let's say if we want to split it like from O, okay, so we can do that as well. So we save it, we go here, and we run our program. You can see that it has basically split it. Okay, the both O's, actually we had two O's in here, so it has basically split it like from O, wherever the O was. Okay, so here we had O as well in world, and we have you know, in hello we had O as well. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. That was fairly simple. So now let's move on and let's do something else. So first, for example, if you want to concatenate a string, you can also do that. So let's say we have X and we have here, let's say hello, and let's say we have Y, and in here we have hello world. So what we can do is that we can have a third variable, let's say Z, and inside Z what we can do is that we can concatenate both of them. If we do that, and if we print Z, it would print out hello world. Okay, so if we just clear it, we run our script, you can see that it has printed out hello world. It has concatenated both of them. Okay, so that's how you basically concatenate. So if you want to add a space in between, you can also do that. All you have to do is that you have to write here a double space, and then you have to write here a plus. Okay, so when you would do that, it would basically add a space between them. All right, so if we save it, we go ahead, we run it, you can see that now we have hello space world. All right, so that's how you basically do it. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic, which is taking input from the user. So the idea is that there is a built-in input function in Python that we use in order to take the input from the user. Okay, so the thing is that in Python 3 you use the input function, a simple input function, but while you're talking about Python 2, all the versions which are related to 2, you have to use raw underscore input for that. Okay, so these are the two built-in functions. So if you want to check that which version of Python you're running on your system, just simply go to your terminal and type here Python, and then type here double hyphen, and then you write here version. You hit enter, and then you can see here you have I have here Python 2.7.16. And if you have like 3 point something, 3.3 point something, then in that case you would use input function, and as I have 2.7, I would use raw input function. Okay, so there are basically two functions. So now let me show you that how you take input in Python 2. So all I have to do is that I have to have a variable here, let's say first name, or let's call it name, and then I put it equals to, then I write here raw underscore input, and then after that I enclose that, and inside of that I can write here enter your name. Okay, so once I have done that, now what I can do, I have taken the input from the user. So now what I can do, I can write here print, and then I can write here hello, and then I can type here print again, and then I can write here the variable name, which is essentially name. Okay, so I save it, I go ahead in my terminal, I try to run my program. Let me just write here this, I hit enter, it says enter your name, so I enter the name, let's say I write here Bob. So if I hit enter, you can see that it says hello Bob. So in order to have it on the same line, what you can do is that you can just write here plus, and then the variable name, which is name. So we save it, we go back, we hit enter, and again we write here Bob Proctor. We hit enter, and you can see that it says hello Bob Proctor. So if you want to give it a space, you can also do that. Again, let me just write here Python hello. So I just write here Bob Proctor. So hit enter, you can see that it says hello Bob Proctor. Okay, so I hope you have got the idea, you have got the point that how you take input from the user. And if you're using Python 3, all you have to do is that you remove this raw and underscore, and this would work fine in the case of Python 3. Okay, so that's how you basically take the input from the user. Now you can take an input, like you can take a number as an input as well, and maybe you want to add it somewhere. So let's say if you want to take a number as an input, okay, number, and then you can write here raw input, as I have Python 2 version, right? So I would just write here enter any number here. Okay, so then you can write here hello, and then you can write here the name here actually, and then you can basically simply write here number to print out the number. So we just save it, and we write here something like this. So let's say we write here 25. You can see that 25 has been printed. So the idea is that whenever you are taking the input, if you're asking for a string input and the user enters a string input, it would basically take it as a string and it would pass it on as a string. But when you are giving integer input, then what would happen that it would convert that integer into a string and then it would pass on. So for example, if you want to use any of the input as an integer or a float, then in that case what you have to do is that you have to typecast the variable from string to integer. Okay, and then you can perform whatever calculation or operation that you want to perform in case you want an integer or a float input. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is essentially comments. And, if we talk about comments, comments are something like when you are writing a code and you want to explain it, right? But you don't want that impact to be in the code. So for example, if I try to write here something like this is a input function, and you can see that this would become the part of the code, and if I save it, I go back and I try to run this, it would give me an error, right? Because this is an input, the interpreter does not recognize it, right? So in order to make sure that the reader, whoever is reading the code, they understand the code in a better way, we have comments. Okay, so for example, in Python, in order to comment this, all I have to do is that I have to put a hash sign here. So when I do that, it would have zero impact on the code. It means that the interpreter understands that this thing here, this line, it doesn't have to be included in the code. Okay, so it is just a simple comment, which means that it is there for the understanding of the reader who's reading the code actually. So if we just save it and if we just run our code again, you can see now it is working, right? So now if you want to have like multiple comments, you can multiple line comments, you can also have that. So for one line comments, we can do something like this. This is a Python script. Okay, but as we go on the next line, you can see here, if I start typing again, you can see that now the color has changed and now it is not a comment, right? So for that you have to do the hash thing again. So if you want to add multiple line comments, like for example, if you want to explain the code and let's say you have to write 5 lines of the comments or maybe 10 or 15 lines of the comments, what you're going to do is that you're not going to write hash and hash and hash again. You can have multiple line comments for that. So how would you do that? You just write here triple quotes and then you again write here triple quotes, and now whatever you would write here inside, that would be a comment. So even if you write thousands and thousands of lines in this body, that would be a comment. All right, so for example, I write here this is Linux hint, and doesn't matter how many lines of that I write here. So for example, I paste it like maybe 5, 6, 10 times. Okay, 10 plus times. All right, so now I have pasted all of that, but here is the thing, you can see that its color is like something different. It's like pink, right? So it has no impact on the code. So if we save it and if we go back and try to run our code, you can see that the code is working fine, right? So if I give here the input like hi, you can see that it's printing out hi, right? So the idea is that you can have multiple line comments and you can have single line comments as well, and you can even comment any piece of the code that you want to. Then in that case, that piece of the code would have no impact on the program. Okay, so for example, if I now save it and if I try to run my script again, you can see that it is giving us an error because it doesn't identify the number, right? So if we uncomment this, if we save it, we go back, we run it, you can see that it says enter any number, and if we enter, we get the result. All right, so I hope you've got the point. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is topic number 10, and that is lists in Python. If we talk about list, then a list is a collection which is ordered and changeable, which means that it can have duplicate members. Okay, So the Python list, they are written with square brackets, all right? So I'll show you how to write a list and how to work with them. So in order to create a simple list, all you have to do is that you have to write here the name of the list, maybe the list, let's say, and then we can write here an equal sign. Then we can have square brackets, as I've told you. Then we can have here the members of the list. So let's say I write here the car company's name, Honda, and then I write here Toyota, and then I write here Mercedes. All right. And if I come here, and now if I want to print this list, I can also do that. So I just write here print, and then I can write here the list. Okay, so once I do that, I save it, and I go to my terminal. I try to run my script, and you can see that we have BMW, Honda, and Toyota and Mercedes. Okay, so this is something that it has been printed out as a list. Okay, so if you want to access different items, you can also do that. How would you do it? You just write here the index. So now what would happen, it would access the value on index number 1. Okay, so if we try to run our code again, you can see that it has accessed Honda on the index 1. Okay, this was 0 index, 1, 2 and 3. So now let's say if we want to access the value on index number 3, which is Mercedes, let's see what happens. So we save it, we go back, run our program, and you can see that we have Mercedes right here. Okay, so it also offers the negative indexing, and negative indexing means beginning from the end. All right, so -1, it would refer to the last item, and -2, it would refer to the second last item, and -3 would refer to the third last item. Okay, so for example, if we go here and if we write here, let's say -1. Okay, so if we save it, we go back here, run our program, you can see that it is printing out Mercedes from the last. So what if we want to print out Honda, or we want to print out BMW? So all I have to do is I have to write here -4. Okay, -1, -2, -3 and -4. So if we save it, we go back, we run our program, and you can see that we have BMW on the output. Okay, so I hope you've got the concept. All right, so now we also can have the ranges of the index. So for example, let me just increase the values here. So for example, we write here the other company names, let's say Nissan, and let's say Ferrari, and let's say we write here Lamborghini. Okay, and then we write here, let's say Porsche or Porsche, so we write here that. So we save it, and before we go to run it, we want to basically set a range. So let's say I set a range from maybe 2 to 5, or maybe 2 to 7, 2 till 5. Okay, that would be suitable. So we just write here 1 or maybe 2, and then we can set it till 5. Okay, so if I save it, I go back, I try to run my code, you can see that it would print out Toyota, Mercedes and Nissan. Okay, from here. Okay, Toyota, Mercedes, Nissan, and that was on the index 2. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, it has not printed out 5, because it will always prints out 1 less. Okay, so if I do something like this from 1 to 7, it would print until 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it would print until Lamborghini. Okay, although it should print out till Porsche, but as I have told you that it would print 1 less than this index. Okay, so we save it, we go back here, try to run our program, and you can see that it has printed out till Lamborghini. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So in the list, you also can have any one item that you want to return. Another thing that you can do is that you can return a single value as well. So for example, let's say that I don't know what value I want to return. So for example, I don't know the indexing thing. So I say that I want to return the third value from the list. Okay, so all I have to do is that if I remember that if I write here 3, it would return 0, 1, 2, 3, Mercedes, right? But if I just put a colon here, it would actually return the third value, right? So it would return 1, 2, 3. It would return Toyota. But when I was doing this, it would actually return a fourth value from the list, right? If I want to pick up the third value, I just have to put a colon here. So now if I save it, I go back, I try to run my script, you can see that it has printed out BMW, Honda, and Toyota. It has picked up 3 values and it has like printed it out right there. Okay, then we have the example in which we want to return all the values from let's say after the third one. Okay, so if I do something like this, if I save it, it will print out everything after Toyota. Okay, and here you can see the results. All right, so you can also set the range from the negative indexes, and that would actually return the values in reverse. So for example, if I do something like this, like negative 5 till negative 1, it would reverse the order and it would give the result. You can see that it has reversed the order and it has given us this. All right, so now there's another thing you can do is that if you want to change any value on any specific index, you can also do that. So for example, if I want to change the value on the first index, right? So how do I do that? So for example, if I write here the list, all right, and then I specify the index, let's say 1, I want to change Honda. So what I would do, I would just write here Honda. I would write here a new company name. So let's say I write here Ford. All right, so if I save it and if I come back here, run it, nothing would happen because I have not printed it out yet, right? So I need to print out something. So I would just write here it has executed it, but we had nothing to show, right? So what we would do, we just write here the list. Okay, so we save it, we go back. Let me just clear it first so that you can see the output more clearly. So we run it and you can see that it has basically changed the Honda to Ford. Okay, so that's how you basically change the value or change the item. All right, so you can also print all the items in the list one by one as well by using a for loop maybe. So in order to do that, all you have to do is that you have to write here a for loop. Okay, so you would write here for, and then you would write here a variable, and then you would write here in, and then you would write here the name. Excuse me, we need to write here in, and then you write here the name of the list, and that is the list. And after that, I would just write here a colon, and then simply I basically print it. The body of the for loop would start right after 1 space or 2 or 3 spaces, it doesn't matter, but you have to have at least 1 space, because otherwise it would create an indentation problem for you, right? So in order to print them one by one, you have used for loop. So now if we go back here, we try to run our script, you can see that it is printing out all the values from the list one by one. Okay, so I hope you've got the idea. So another thing that you can do is that you can also check if the item exists or not in the list. Okay, so what you can do is that you can have here an if statement. So for that, you just write here if, and then you'd write here let's say Honda maybe, or maybe Toyota. Okay, so we want to check if that exists in the list or not. Okay, so we would just simply print it here, like print, and then we write here yes, this exists. Okay, so then what we would do, this exists in the list. All right, so we save it, we go ahead and let me just clear it. So we run it. You can see that it says yes, this exists in the list. Okay, so you can also find out the length of the list as well. So how would you know the length of the list? You just write here simply print, and then you can write here len, and inside here you can write here the list. Okay, so once you have that, just save it, go back here, run your script, and you can see that we have 8 length. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, so that was the length of the list. So if you want to basically append any item or add any item, you can also do that. Okay, so for that you have an append function. Using that, you can add any value or append any value wherever you want. Basically it would in whichever list you want, actually basically it would append the value at the end of the list. Okay, so for example, whatever the value that we would append, it would add it after this last value. Okay, so in order to append in the list, all you have to do is that you have to write here the list name, the list, then you write here dot append, and then after that you write here brackets, and in the brackets you write here the value that you want to append. So you would just write here Ford. Okay, so let's say we want to append Ford, we'll do that. So now we just write here the list, we want to print it. So now, and we go back here in our terminal and we try to run it. So you can see that now it has appended the value Ford. Okay, so in the similar way you have an insert function, and if you want to use it, all you have to do is that you have to specify an index, and on that specific index it would add the value. So for example, here if we want to insert Ford in place of, let's say, Nissan, then we have to specify the index 0 1 2 3 4. Okay, so what we would do, would just write here 4, put a comma here, and we are all done. Okay, so now if we save it, we go back here, we run it again, you can see that we have inserted Ford on the 4th index in the place of Nissan, and the Nissan has been moved to another next index, and it has become now the index number 5. Okay, so now if you want to remove a value from the list, you can also do that using the remove method. So all you have to do is you have to go here, right here remove, and write here the name that you want to remove. So let's say we want to remove Nissan, so we just save it, we go back here, let me just clear it first so that you can see it more clearly. So we hit enter, and you can see that now there is no Nissan here in the output, but here inside the file we have, right? So that's how you basically remove any item. We have another method which is a pop method. So what it does, that it basically excludes one value from the end. Okay, so it would basically exclude it from the list. Okay, so in order to pop it, we just save it, we write here dot pop function, and then we basically run our script, and you can see that it has popped one element from the list. Okay, so one by one you can pop multiple items. So for example, if I write here twice, it would pop 2 items. Okay, so I hit enter, and you can see that now there are 2 items that have been popped. Okay, so you can write here 5 times, and there would be 5 items that would be popped in total. Okay, so if I hit enter, you can see that only 3 items have been left out of 8. Alright, so that was the pop method. And then also we have the del method or the del keyword as well that we can use. So this del keyword, it can be used to delete the entire list completely or maybe one specific element. So for example, if I write here del and then I write here the list and the index number 1, let's say, it would delete Honda. Okay, so we save it, run it, you can see that there is no Honda, it has been deleted. Alright, so if I want to delete the entire list, all I have to do is that I have to write here del this list and it would be deleted. So if I hit, it is giving us an error because we cannot really print it out. So if we save it, we run it again, you can see that nothing happens. Okay, there is nothing, so it means that the list would have been deleted. Okay, if you want to join two lists, you can also do that. So for example, let me just have half of the elements in the second list. Okay, something like this, and let me just have it close here. Then I have list I or list 1, and then I basically have here brackets, and inside here I paste them. Okay, so now these are the two lists. So for example, if I want to add them, I would have another list. So list 2 equals the list plus list 1. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to print it, right? So I would write here print list 2. Okay, so I save it, I go back here, I run my program, and you can see that still they have been combined and the list has been joined, and now it is the combined output of two lists. Okay, so that's how you combine two lists basically. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed this list thing, and you have loved it. So that was it for the list. I think I have shown you pretty much all the methods that I knew. Maybe there would be other methods such as like clear, constructor, and the append list method, or maybe the copy list method. So go on and try those methods on your own. So now we move on to our next topic, which is arrays in Python. So the idea is that an array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. Alright, so you must be thinking that what is the difference between list and array? So we have that as a next topic, and I'll explain to you in that what exactly is the difference between array and a list in a Python. Okay, so if we talk about array specifically, then an array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. So if you have a list of items, like let's say the car names that we were talking about, so we can have BMW, Mercedes, Honda, Ford, Volvo, Ferrari, Porsche, things like that. So the idea is that you can have all that stored in one variable. Okay, so list was pretty much the same thing, but it is not exactly having it does not exactly have the same purpose of the usage. Okay, so we'll see that in the next topic. So right now what we would do, we just simply create an array, and then I'm going to show you quickly how to access the indexes and how to perform different things. So for example, I have here array 1, and then if I go here, I have BMW, and I can have here Mercedes, and then I can have here Ford maybe. Okay, so these are the three car names that I have in an array. So let's say if I want to it has the same thing. If I want to access this Mercedes, all I have to do is that I have to type in here 1. Okay, array 1, and then I have to specify the index, which is array 1. Okay, so we save it, we go back to our terminal, and we try to run our script. Hit enter, and you can see that it has accessed Mercedes successfully, right? So now if you want to basically replace or modify the value of the array item, then you can also do that. So for example, if I want to modify this Mercedes with, or maybe if I want to modify this BMW with Honda, I can also do that. So I'll just write here Honda, and now if I want to print the array 1, so what I can do is that I can write here print array 1, and if I save it and I go back here, you can see I have Honda, Mercedes, and Ford instead of having BMW, Mercedes, and Ford, right? So that's how you basically change the index, and that is similar to the array. Okay, so if you want to know the length of the array, you can also know that. Just simply put in here len and enclose the brackets, and inside the brackets you can write here the array name. So we save it, we go back here, run our script, and you can see that it tells us the length of the array, which is 3. It means that it contains 3 elements. Okay, so you can also loop the array element. So for example, if you want to loop the array, all you have to do is you have to print each item in the array. It is the similar as we have done in the loop. So go on and try it yourself. You can write here for, and then you can write any variable name, then you can write in, and then you can write array1, and then simply print, and then variable name. Okay, so it would be very, very simple. So if you want to add or append the array, any element in the array, you have to use the append function as we have used in the list. So you can write here array1 dot append, and then in the brackets you can have you have double quotes, and inside the double quotes you write the value, and it would basically append it, okay, after Ford. So if you use pop, you can basically you can delete any of the element. Okay, so for example, if I write here array1 dot pop, and then inside I write index 1, it would delete Mercedes. Okay, we can also directly remove anything. For that we have array1 dot remove method. So dot remove method will remove any of the value that you will write. So for example, if I would write inside here array1 dot remove, and then inside the brackets if I write double quotes, and inside those double quotes I write Ford, it would basically delete Ford. Alright, so there are other methods like extend, count, index, insert, remove, reverse, sort. So these are the other array methods that you can study and you can work with them. So now we come to the main question that we have in our mind, that what is the difference between an array and a list. Okay, so lists and arrays, they are used in Python to store any data. Okay, so it could be integers, it could be strings, okay, both. So they both can be indexed and iterated as well. So difference between list and arrays are that the functions that you can perform on them. Okay, so they might look like same, but they have different purposes. Okay, so arrays, they need to be declared, while if we talk about the list, they do not need declaration because they are a part of Python's syntax. Okay, so the main reason that lists are more often used than arrays, this was the reason that the list is the part of the Python's syntax. But in case if you want to perform some arithmetic functions to your list, you should go for arrays instead, because for arithmetic functions arrays are way better than the lists. Okay, so and in case if you want to store a large amount of data, then you should consider arrays as well, because they can store data very compactly and efficiently, while in comparison to that, lists are not that much efficient in storing large amounts of data. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now let's move on to the next question, which is question number 13, or the topic number 13, which is tuples in Python. Okay, so in Python we have tuples and they are written with round brackets. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to write a tuple. So what we do, we'd go to our script, and in our Python script we'd just write here the tuple, and then we put in here an equal sign, and after that we have round brackets, and inside those round brackets we can write anything. Like for example, here we write here BMW, and we write here Mercedes. Okay, so this is a tuple, and if we want to like print it out, all I have to do is that I have to write here print, and then I would write here the tuple. Okay, so I hit enter, I save it pressing Ctrl S. I come to my terminal, let me just clear it. I try to run the code, and you can see that the tuple has been printed out as BMW and Mercedes. Okay, so you can have more than one members in the tuple as well. So for example, if I have like Mercedes and I have Toyota, and let's say I have Honda as well. Okay, so let's say we have these four members in the tuple. So for example, if I want to access any of those, for example, if I want to access one on the index 1, I'll save it, I'll go ahead, run it. You can see that the Mercedes has been accessed. Okay, so 0 1 2 3. Okay, so that has the same sort of thing as arrays and as the list. Okay, so you can also use the negative indexing to access the element from the last, from the end. So you would write your print, and then you have here the tuple, and then you write here -1, which means that it would print out the last element of the tuple. So we save it, we come here, we run it, and you can see that it has printed out Honda. Okay, Honda is the last element of the tuple. Alright, so I hope you have got the point. So now what we would do would have a range of indexes that we need to specify. So if you want to specify a range of indexes, you can specify where to start and where to end the range. Okay, so when specifying a range, the return value will be a new tuple with the specified item. So for example, let's say if we have 5 elements or more than 5 elements, let's say we have Ford here and we have Ferrari here as well. So now if we just like simply write here the range as, let's say, 2 and 5, and if we save this, we go to and we go on to run our code, you can see that we have Toyota, Honda and Ford. Okay, so 0 1 2 Toyota, 3 and 4. Okay, so we write here till 5, and it will always print out one less than the index that you have specified in the end. Okay, so here we have a new tuple with the range. So if we talk about the negative indexing, okay, the range of the negative indexing, we can also have that. For example, if we have here -1 and if we have here -4, it would basically print out but in reverse order. Okay, so we save it, we go ahead, we run it, and you can see that we have Toyota, Honda and Ford. Okay, so it has been printed in the reverse order. Alright, so that was related to the negative indexing. So let me just save it once again, try to run it, and you can see that we have Toyota, Honda, Ford. Alright, so now let's discuss changing tuple values. So the idea is that once a tuple is created, you cannot really change its values. Tuples are unchangeable or immutable, you can say, but there is a workaround. You can convert the tuple into a list, change the list and convert it back to the tuple. Okay, so that's how you can basically change it. So for example, we have the tuple right here. So now if we want to convert it into the list, all we have to do is that we have to have a variable here, and then we write here list, and inside the list we pass this the tuple. Okay, so now this tuple has been converted into the list. So if we go here A, and let's say we want to change in the first index, so what we would do, we'd add here, let's say, Porsche. Okay, so we'll just come on the next line, And now what we would do would write here the tuple. Okay, now what we are doing, we are converting it back to the tuple. Okay, so we just write here the method tuple, and in here we pass this a. Okay, so finally we just simply print the tuple. All right, so what we have done, the tuples, they are unchangeable, they cannot be changed. So what we have done, we have converted the tuple into the list first, and then we have converted the list into a tuple back, okay, after making a change while it was a list. Okay, so now if we save it, we go back to our terminal. Let me just clear it. So we try to run our script, and you can see that instead of a Mercedes we have Porsche here. Okay, so that was the change that we have made, and that's how you can change a tuple. So if you want to loop through the tuple, that is also a possibility. You can do it. So for that, what you would do, you would have here the tuple. Okay, if you want to loop through a tuple, all you have to do is you have to write here for, and then you write here any variable name. Okay, and then you write here in, and then you write here in, and then you write here the tuple variable, whatever it is, and then you write here print a. Okay, so now it would basically loop through the tuple, and it would print out every element one by one. Okay, and one more thing, we need to put a colon here. We save it, we go back here, we try to run our script, and you can see that we have BMW, Mercedes, Toyota, Honda, Ford, and Ferrari. Okay, so there we have. So the next thing that we can do is that we can check if the item exists or not. Okay, so for that, what you would do, you would go here. All right, and in here you can put if here, and you can check if Honda exists or not. So you'd write here Honda, and then you write here in this in the tuple, and then you would just simply print it, yes, Honda exists in the tuple. Alright, so we save it, we go back here in our terminal, we try to run it, and you can see that it says yes, Honda exists in the tuple. Alright, so if you want to find out the length of the tuple, you have the length function, which is also known as len. So what you would do, you would go to your script, and here you can have a print function, and then you can have here the length function, and inside the length function you can pass the tuple to know the length. So you would save it, you would come here, you'd run it, and here you can see that the length of the tuple is like 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. If you want to join two tuples, you can also do that. So for example, if we have here the tuple, and if we want to create another tuple, let's say, so let me just do that. So we'll come here, we call it tuple1 equals, and then we have brackets here, we put it here, and yeah, so now we come to the next line, and we have another tuple2, in which we'd basically combine both of them. So we'd write here the tuple, and then we write here plus, and then we write here tuple1. Okay, so after that we can simply print tuple2, and if we save it, we go back to our terminal. Let me just clear it first. So we run our script, and you can see that we have joined the tuple successfully, and these were the two tuples that have been joined now. Okay, so I hope you've got the. So yeah, there are other tuple methods such as count and index that you can use on your own, and you could learn more about tuples. Okay, so go ahead and try those methods and test them and do different sort of things with them. Create your own logic and execute it. It would really benefit you in terms of knowledge. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is dictionary in Python. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is dictionary in Python. So the idea is that a dictionary is a collection which is unordered, changeable, and indexed. In Python, dictionaries are written with the curly brackets and they have keys and values, okay? So let's go ahead and let's try to write a script in which we would use dictionaries basically. So what we would do, the idea is that you can create a dictionary by using something like this. Like this is the syntax basically, okay? So you write them in these curly braces, and if you remember that the tuples, we have written them in the round brackets, and the list we used to write them like in a square bracket, okay? So now what you're gonna do is that in the case of the list and the tuples, you just had one value, right? So in here you are going to have a key and its value, okay? So for example, we're just gonna write here, let's say company name, okay? This is basically, or maybe company, let's say this is gonna be the key, and then we're gonna have here company name, which is gonna be like BMW, okay? So then we're gonna have here another key, let's say model, and then we're gonna have here, let's say series 7, and then we're gonna have here, let's say year, that could be, let's say, let me just write it here, that's gonna be 2018, let's say, okay? So we are making this video in 2019, and we could, you know, later on we could update it. All right, so yeah, that is the dictionary, and this is the key. Like company is the key for BMW, model is the key for series 7, and year is the key for 2018, okay? So we can access them using the key as well, okay? So right now what we're going to do is that we are just going to simply print this dictionary to see that what we have, okay? So now we'd go to our terminal. Let me just clear it. We run our code, and it gives us a little small error, and that is basically that you also need to put commas here, which I forgot. So just remember that you have to put like commas here, okay? So we save it and we go again. Let me just clear it quickly, and now I try to run my program, and now you can see that we have a company, which is a key, we have a company name as BMW, we have model series 7, and the year is 2018, okay? So if you want to access any item using the key, you can also do that, okay? So for example, if I want to access this year, all I have to do is that I have to go back here, and in here what I'm gonna do, that I'm gonna have a variable, and now I'm going to write here this, and then I'm gonna write here dictionary, and I'm gonna write here, let's say I want to access the year, so I would just write here year, and now this is the dictionary, okay, excuse me. So I'll just save it, and now I'll go back to my terminal, I'll try to run it, and now you can see that it has picked up the year 2018, right? So if I want to pick up the model, I can also do that. I'll write here the key, which is model, I save it, I go back, I run it, you can see that it says series 7, and in a similar way I can pick up the company using the key, I go back, I run it, you can see that we have BMW, right? So you can actually use a method to get the value as well. So for example, we can use here this the dict.get, and then we can have round brackets instead of having that, and then we can, inside here we can write here year, let's say. So we save it, we go back, we run it, you can see we still would get the same result, okay? So what if you want to change the value? So that is fairly simple as well. So for example, I want to change the year to 2018, excuse me, to 2019 from 2018. So all I have to do is that I have to go here, and let me just do that. So I print the dictionary, And just before that, I do something like this, the dictionary, and then I'm gonna write here the dictionary. I'm gonna need the square brackets, and inside the square brackets I'm gonna write here the key. Make sure that you have the right key. Like, you cannot write here small y and then EAR. You have to write here a capital Y in the uppercase, and then EAR, because it works like in a case sensitive way. All right, so then what you have to do is that you have to write here an equal sign, and then let's change the year to 2019. Okay, so now if I save it, I go back to my terminal, I try to run the code. You can see that we have 2019 in the year, as we have changed it right here. Okay, so you can also loop through the dictionary, and that is fairly simple as well. So all you have to do is that you have to write here a loop, which is for a, and then you're going to write here this or the dictionary, then you're gonna write here like this, then you write here print a. Okay, so you save it, you go back here and you run it, and you can see that you have basically you have went through the dictionary, and you have printed out all the keys. Okay, 3 keys that we had. So if you want to print out the values specifically, right now we have gone through the keys. So for example, using the same for loop, if you want to print out the values, you can do that as well. So all you have to do is that you have to write here the dictionary, and then inside here you're gonna write a. Okay, so now you save it, and now you would get values. Okay, so right now you can see that you've got the company value, you've got the model value, and then you've got the year value. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now let's move on to the next thing. There is another way actually to get these values, and that is basically you go here, you write here the dictionary dot values. Okay, and this is a method or a built-in function in Python that you call. This is for dictionary, and in here you just write here a. Okay, so you save it, and now you go ahead and you try to run it, and you can see that still you have got this result, and this is the method that you have used. Okay, so in case you want to know that what if we want to print both of the keys and the values together. Okay, so you can also do that. So for that, what you're gonna do, that you're gonna use a built-in function. So let's say I write here a and b, and yes, these are the 2 values, the 2 variables, and in here you're gonna use the method as items. All right, and then basically you're gonna print a and you're gonna print b. Okay, so let's just save it, go ahead, let me just clear it for you, and we run the code, and you can see that now we have printed out both the key and their values. Okay, so right here we have the key company, and the value is BMW. We have the key model, and the value is series 7. We have the key year, and the value is 2018. Okay, so that's how you print both of them. All right, so you can also know the length of the dictionary, and that is like fairly simple. So all you have to do is that you have to have here a print value, and then you're gonna have here the length, and inside the length you're gonna write here the dictionary. Okay, so you save it, you go back here, you try to run your script, and that is what you have got. Okay, 3 is the length of the dictionary. All right, so if you would have more keys and more values, obviously it would have told you that these are like the values, or this is the length of the dictionary. Okay, so the length of the dictionary would either be equal to the number of keys or to the number of values. Okay, so you cannot really count keys and values both. All right, so it is equivalent to that. So what if you want to add like some sort of items? Like say recently we have tried to replace the values or add the values, but now we'll try to add the keys and the values both. So for example, right here we have company, model, year, and now what we can do is that we can try to add some color. Okay, so let's say if we want to add this trait or attribute, all I have to do is that I have to write here the dictionary, and then I'm gonna write here, let's say color, and after that I'm gonna write here, let's say black. All right, so now after that what you're gonna do is that you're gonna write here print, and then inside this print you're gonna write here the dictionary. Okay, so you save it, you come back here, you run it, and there you go. You can see that the color has been added to the dictionary as well. Okay, so if you want to remove any of the value, you can also do that. So for that what you have to do is, let me just clear it first. Okay, so let's say that I want to remove the year. Okay, so all I have to do is that I have to write here the dictionary dot pop, and in here I'm gonna write here the year. Okay, so when I do that, this is the key that I've written here, and now if I print the dictionary, the year will be gone. Okay, so now I save it, I go back here, I run it, and now you can see that we only have company and model, and we don't have any year here. Okay, you can have other methods in the dictionary that you can work with, such as clear, copy, from keys, get items, keys, pop items, set default, update, and the values method that we have seen. Okay, so these are all the methods or the built-in functions regarding dictionaries that you can use. All right. Okay, so the next topic, which is topic number 15, it's if statements, and the topic number 16, which is comparison in Python. Okay, so we'll cover both of them. Okay, so the idea is that an if condition is something like, you can say it is a check that basically it checks if some certain number or some certain string is as we want. Okay, so we can check it through the programming interface, and we can tell if it is if it is as we want it to. Okay, so we can really judge numbers, strings, and different sorts of conditions, and based on that we can make a decision. Okay, so if basically it is used for decision making in programming languages. Okay, so Python's basically it supports the usual logical conditions from mathematics, like equals, not equals, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay, things like that. So these are also the it can also be used to compare strings or numbers as well. Okay, so these conditions, they can be used in several ways, most commonly in if statements and loops. And if statement, it is written by using the if keyword. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's try to do an example related to it. So we'll just go to our script. Let me just remove it. So here, let's say we have two variables. So let's say one is x equals 24, and then we have y equals, let's say, 200 or 300, let's say. Okay, so now we're gonna have an if condition which says if y is greater than x, then in that case I want to print out that, like this, print y is greater than x. Okay, so I save it, I go back to my terminal, let me just clear it, I run my script. You can see that it says y is greater than x. Okay, and that is absolutely true, right? In the example here we had two variables, right? One is x and the other one is y. So these both of them are used as a part of the if statement to test whether y is greater than x. As x is 24 and y is 300, so we know that 300 is always greater than x. So the statement is right here, and it has identified it, and that's why it has printed it out. So if y would not have been greater than x, or the statement would have been reversed, like x is greater than y, then it would have not printed it out. Okay, where that Python takes indentation very seriously, so you have to be careful. So if you do this, then you'll get an error. So if I save it, I run my code, you can see that there is an error, and it says expected an indented block. Okay, so now if I want to indent it, I would do something like this. I run it again, you can see that it's working fine. Alright, so indentation is very important in Python. I keep on saying over and over again, so you need to make sure that you work with it. Okay, so there is another thing that you can do, and that is basically we have else if block as well. So else if means that if one condition doesn't work, then check for the second condition if it is true or not. So we just write here else if, and then we write here x, and then we write here double equals, which is a comparison operator as well, which is a part of our topic number 16, I guess. Let me just show you quickly. So yes, we have a comparison in Python as well. So this is a part of the comparison operator sort of thing. Okay, x double equals y, and in here what you're going to do is that you're going to print here print, and then you're going to write here let's say x and y are equal. All right, so that was fairly simple. And now what you're going to do is that you're going to write here you have here x and y are equal, and now you're going to basically save it. All right, and now you're going to go to your terminal. You're going to run it. Okay, so you run it and it says y is greater than x. Okay, so what if we make x equals 300 as well? Okay, so now you know that the cursor would come, it would check if y is greater than x. It is false, y is not greater than x, they both are equal. Okay, so it would leave it and it would go to the next condition, which is an else if condition. Now it would check if x double equals y, if x is really equal to y or not. So x is equal to y, we know 300 equals 300, that is true. So it would, this time it would print out this one, x and y are equal. Okay, so now if we save it, we go to our terminal and we try to run our code, you can see that it says x and y are equal. Okay, so there is also another thing or another block that we have, and that is an else block. Okay, so let's say that we have an else block as well, because there is a third possible direction of this thing as well. Okay, so if we have here else, and then we print here let me just write here print, and then we print here that x is greater than y. Okay, so the idea is that if you know y is not greater than x, and if x is not equal to y or y is not equal to x, then there is one condition left only, and that is that x is greater than y. Okay, so let me show you that how it would happen. So for example, if I change the value here and I like make x greater, so I save it. Okay, I go back here. First let's do a dry run. Okay, so what is a dry run? That in which you basically just run the code in your mind. Okay, so you become a compiler, you try to act like a compiler, or you try to think like a compiler, and then you get the results. Okay, so if you see here, x is equal to 500 and y is equal to 300. So if you come here, you know, the cursor would come and it would check y is greater than x. Is it true? No, because y is 300 and x is 500. Okay, so this is not true, so it would leave it. It would not print out anything from the if block. Now it would come to the else if block. It would check if x is equal to y. Is it really true? Because no, y is 300 and x is 500. Okay, so it can't be true, so it would leave it. So it would obviously these two conditions are not true, so it would directly go here and print out this. And obviously we know that x is equal to 500 and y is equal to 300, and this is true anyway. Okay, so we just save it, we go here, we run our program, and you can see that it prints out x is greater than y, and that is the reality. All right, so I hope you have got the point with related to the comparisons. So now without else if, you can also have else. Okay, so let's say that if I like, you know, maybe if I remove this thing from here, let's say if I remove this else if, it would still work fine. Okay, so now let me just, you know, go here, let me save it. If I run it, you can see that it says x is greater than y, and if I try to change it, let's say I, you know, make y like 800, I save it, I come here, I run it again, and you can see that it says y is greater than x, and that is perfectly true. Okay, so like if you have only one statement to execute, you can put it on the same line as the if statement as well. So for example, if I would have only like this, if y is greater than x, then all you have to do is that you can basically remove this x, okay, and you can put it like on the same line, something like this. Okay, so just bring it on here. All right, so this would work as well. Okay, so you can say that doesn't it need indentation here? So this is an indentational form. Okay, so it has been indented. All right, so we save it, we go to our terminal, okay, and we run it, and you can see that it says y is greater than x. Okay, it's working fine. Okay, so we just had one line, that's why. All right, if x is greater than y, and then I write here z is greater than a, then in that case I basically print it out here. Both conditions are true. Okay, both conditions are true. All right, so the idea is that and statement means that both conditions have to be true in order to execute the if block. Okay, so for example, here if we check x is greater than y, it is false, and z is greater than a, which is actually we're gonna have here x, excuse me. So z is greater than x, which is true, right? So one statement is true and the other statement is false, right? So what is going to happen, it would not execute this. So for example, if I control S, I go back here, I try to run my code, you can see that there is nothing on the output because it is not executing this statement. Okay, so now what we are going to do is that we are going to make this one false and this one true. So for example, now z is greater than x, it's false, right? And x is greater than y, yes, it is true, right? So now this statement is true and this is false. Now we'd have the same result. Okay, it would not let us print anything, or it would not let us execute the if statement. The only way it would execute this condition or this statement is that both of these conditions are true. Okay, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to make x greater than y, which is already true, and now we're going to make z greater than x, and which is like, let's say 1100. All right, so now both these conditions are true because z is 1100 and x is 900. This is true. All right, and if we go here, x is 900 and y is 800, so this is true as well. So now both conditions are true. So if we save it, we go ahead, we try to run our code, now you can see that it would execute the if block and would get this result, both conditions are true. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now there is another condition, which is or. Okay, so in the case of or, one condition or both of condition can be true, it would execute the block anyway. Okay, so let's say let me gonna write here at least one condition is true. Okay, at least one condition is true. All right, so you know both can be true as well. Okay, so for example, here you can see that both of these conditions are true. So now if I save it, I run it, you can see that it prints out at least one condition is true. All right, so now let's intentionally make one false. So z is greater than x, right? So it should like, let's say I make it 100. Okay, so now z greater than x, it is false, but it is still true, x is greater than y, right? So now if I save it, I go ahead, run it, you can see that it still prints out at least one condition is true. Okay, so now let's make this one true, z is greater than x, and now let's make this one false. So let's say we have x here maybe less than 800, and that is 500. Okay, so now this condition is false and this condition is true. Okay, so z is greater than x, it is true. So still if we save it, and if we run it, we still get the results. The only way this is gonna be false and this is not going to give us any result when both of these statements are false. So let's intentionally make them false. So let's keep it z equals 100, and let's keep x equals 500 and y equals 800. Okay, so that now these both of the conditions are false because z which is 100 is not greater than 500, that is false, and x is 500 and 500 cannot be greater than 800. So both of these conditions are false. So now if we save it and we go ahead and we try to run it, we won't get any of the result. Okay, so now you understand the difference between and or conditions. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's try to discuss another topic, which is like nested if. It is a subtopic of the if topic, you can say. Okay, so nested if conditions is that like you can have if statement inside if statements. This is called nested if statement. Okay, so multiple if statements, you're basically double checking it. All right, so here we have x, y, and z, and let's say if we put a condition here, actually we just need one variable, so let's just keep z here. So let's say z equals 100. So now we're gonna have an if condition here. So let's say we have if z is greater than, let's say, 20, then in that case I write here that print, then I write here z is more than 20 or greater than 20, whatever you can write it. Okay, so then there could be another if block, so you can write here if, and make sure your code is like well indented. Okay, so if it won't be indentation, so if your code won't be indented, then in that case you can have an error. All right, so we'll just have here if z is greater than 40, then we can say that let me just indent it. So I'll write here print, and then I write here z is more than 40 as well. Okay, and these are like two nested if conditions. So I can go on, I can put here 60 as well, it doesn't really matter. So elsewise, if that is not true, what I can do is that I can write here an else block, which would basically be something like this. So I would just print out here print, and then I would have double quotes, and inside that I would write here z is less than 20. Okay, so z is less than 40. Obviously if z is greater than 40, then it has if z is greater than 20, then it has got here. So we can write here z is less than 40, or we can write here z is more than 20 but less than 40. All right, so this is the condition. It's like nested if. So now if we save it and if we try to run our code, you can see that it says z is more than 20 and z is more than 40 as well. Okay, so it has printed out kind of both statements. So here you can see that the cursor would come, it would check if z is greater than 20, then it would print it, and also it would go inside the if block. It has another if block, and it would again check if z is greater than 40. Yes, it is true, so it prints that out. Okay, so right now, what if I want to change this? So let's say I do here like 25. Okay, so now z is greater than 20, it would still print it out, but when it would check here, 25 cannot be greater than 40, right? So it would not print this line, it would go to the else block and it would print this one, z is more than 20 but less than 40. Okay, so if I save it, so if I run it again, you can see that it says z is more than 20, and then it says z is more than 20 but less than 40. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. That's how you work with the if statements. All right, So there is another statement which is a pass statement. So if statements, they really cannot be empty. Okay, you have to put something. But if for some reason you're working with if statements and you don't want to put like anything in it, so what you can do is that you can write here the pass statement and avoid getting an error. So for example, right now if I do not write anything in it, I would get an error. All right, so if I just remove it, if I save it, I run, and you can see that I have error here. Okay, so it says indentation error, but it's the same thing anyway. I don't have anything inside here. Okay, so all I can do, I just write here pass, I save it, I go ahead, I run it, and you can see that there are no errors. Okay, so I have avoided the error by using the pass statement. All right, so last thing that we can do is the comparison thing, and we have done it, I guess, with the double equal sign. That was related to the comparison, and we can also compare the strings as well. So for example, if we have x equals Python, and if we have y equals Python as well, or maybe let's write here Linux, and then we have an if condition. If x is double equals y, then in that case you can print here both strings are equal. Okay, so now let's just save it, let's just go ahead, run it, and you can see that we do not have any error, but we still didn't get any output, right? It means that both strings are not equal. Okay, so you can have an else block here to tell that. So what we can do is that we can have here Python as well. Okay, so we write here Python, we save it, we go back, we run it, and you can see that it says both strings are equal. So that's how you do the string comparison. And if the integer comparison, as far as it is concerned, we have shown you already that how to do that. Okay, so now let's move on to our next topic, which is for loop in Python. So now let's discuss Python loops, okay, or for loops in Python. So a for loop is used for iterating over a sequence, and that is either a list, a tuple, or a dictionary, a set or a string. So we have been doing that lately, in the dictionaries, in tuples. We have been using that for loop actually. So it is the exact same thing, all right? So right now we can do that, some of that we have not done it yet. So for example, let me just show you quickly that how to do it. So for example, if we have here something like cars, and let's say we have here BMW, and then we have here Mercedes, and then we have here, let's say, Ford, then we have here Ferrari, and then we have Lamborghini. Okay, just I think Ferrari, it's enough. So we have 4 values here, right? So if I want to print all of that out, what I can do is that I can actually go here, and I can have here for x in cars, and then I can simply print x. So I save it, I go ahead, and if I run it, you can see that I have printed it out. So that's how you basically iterate through an array or list. Alright, so what you can do is that you can also loop through a string as well. So for example, instead of having cars here, I can have here any string. So let's say if I have here Honda, and if I save it, let me just do that, save it, and I go here, I run it, you can see that I have printed it out, the string. Okay, so that's how you iterate through a string. And we also have a break statement in the loops, which means that you want to break, and you want the loop to stop basically. So if we have here for x in cars, let me just write it here, cars, and we are printing it out, like we keep on printing, but I want the loop to break down whenever this Ford thing comes. Okay, so I write here, if x is equal to Ford, then in that case I want the loop to be finished. Okay, so for that I would just write here break statement. Okay, so if I save it, now it would only print out till BMW and Mercedes, and it would not print out Ford. Okay, so if I go back here, let me just clear it. I run my script, and you can see that we have got an error just because I didn't put a colon here. I save it, I go back here, and I run my script, and you can see that we have got BMW, Mercedes, and Ford included. Okay, that was my mistake. I didn't understand it. I couldn't understand it actually, because the loop, when the loop was going it here, that was my mistake. Okay, I quickly try run it in my head. So when the loop is going quickly, first it would go through it. Okay, so it has printed out BMW, and then it has checked. Okay, it doesn't match, it goes back. And then Mercedes, it prints it out, it checks it, it doesn't match. Okay, so it goes back. Then Ford, it prints it out, it goes here, it checks, it matches, it breaks out of the loop. Okay, and the Ferrari, it is left. All right, so that's why you have this output. Okay, so do you understand now? I hope you do. All right, so now let's move on to the next example, and that is that basically you can have an if condition with the break that we have done. So for example, if we want to skip this Ford thing, all continue, and we can come here, and instead of having print x here, we can have print x actually right here. Okay, after the continue statement. So we save it, we go ahead, let me just clear it, we try to run our code, and you can see that it is basically printing out nothing, because print x is right now, it is the part of the if statement. So we don't want it to be the part of the if statement, rather we want it to be outside the if statement. So we save it, we clear it. Now we come here, run our code, and you can see that we have BMW, Mercedes, and Ferrari, and Ford, it's nowhere to be found on the output, but it's still there. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So as far as the for loop is concerned, we also have the range function. Okay, so you can basically pick up a specific point, and from there you can have the range. Okay, so for example, we can have here, let me just remove it quickly. So we can have here the range. All right, so we can have here like for x in range, and then we can have here, let's say from 1 till, let's say, 6. All right, something like that. And then we can, if we try to print out something, let's see what happens. So if we save it, we go here, we run it, and you can see that for x, okay, from range 1 to 6, it has printed it out. Okay, so you know, 1 2 3 4 5. All right, so it would always print one less than that. Okay, so you can apply the same concept on arrays if you want to. Okay, so now you can also have the nested loops. So for example, we have like cars, and we can have cars 2, and in here we can have other car names, like let's say you know, Honda, we can have here Toyota, and we can have here Porsche as well. Okay, so these are the car names that we have. All right, so we can have here Tesla, that's my favorite one actually, so just write here Tesla. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna have a for loop here, and after that I write here x in, then I write here cars, and then I put a colon here, and then I have another for loop which says for y in, and then I write here cars 2. Okay, and then I put a colon here, and now I basically try to print both. Okay, x and y, x comma y. All right, so now if I save it, I go ahead, I try to run my code, and you know what I would get? I would get all of that like this. Okay, BMW, you know, Honda, BMW, Toyota, BMW, Porsche, BMW, Tesla, Mercedes, Honda, Mercedes, Toyota. You know, it would basically pick up like one item from here, and it would write it down with all of them. Then it would pick up the second one, it would write it down with all of them. It would pick up the third one, write them down with all of them. it would pick up the 4 one and it would write them out with all of them. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So if you talk about the for loop, X is BMW, and after that it is going to print out like everything in cars 2. Okay, and then it comes to the second circle, and then it goes again, prints out everything, and then it comes to the third one, then prints out everything from the cars 2. Then it comes at fourth time, it gets 1 here, and then it prints out everything. Okay, so you can see that the second for loop, it's actually rotating like multiple times entirely. Okay, but this bigger for loop, it just gets chance to rotate once, every once in a while, but it rotates once, and it gets 1 value. It rotates 4 times, and it rotates once and it gets 4 values. Okay, so things like that. So I hope you've got the concept here. So let's move on to the next topic, which is while loop, and let's see what it has got. Okay, so now let's discuss while loop. So the idea is that with while loop, we can execute a set of statements as long as the condition is true. Okay, so for example, if we have I and we want to print it out like till 10, we can do it. So as long as I is, let's say, less than 10, then it would keep on printing it. So let's go ahead and let's write the script. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna remove all of that, and in here I'm going to have a variable. Basically I'm gonna define it, and I would have a value 1, and then I would have a while loop, and after having a while loop I would put a condition here, I is less than 10. Okay, so now what would happen, it would print it until 9, I guess, right? So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write here print I, and obviously I need to indent it, otherwise it would give an error. The other thing that I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna increment it by 1. So I save it. Now I go to my terminal, I try to run my code, and you can see that using while loop I have printed out the numbers from 1 to 9. Okay, so the while loop, it requires relevant variables to be ready. In this example, we have defined I equals 1, and we have checked it, and we have put a condition until it is 9. Okay, until it is 10, excuse me, and when it is 10, obviously 10 is not less than 10, it is actually equals to 10, so we don't have any equal sign in the condition, and that's why the loop it got broke and it came out of it. Okay, so now you can actually put a condition, or you can put an if condition inside the while loop as well. So for example, I can have here like if the I is equal to, let's say, maybe 5, then I want to break. Okay, so obviously I need to indent that, and obviously I need to have here the colons as well, and if I don't have brackets, that would actually work fine, so I'll just remove those. So break, and then what I want, finally I want to increment it as well, and that is supposed to be out of the if block, so I would just write it parallel to if block, and it would be considered as the part of the while loop. Okay, so I would just write here I, and then I would write here plus equals 1. Alright, so that would be an increment. So I save it, and now I go ahead, I try to run my program again. So I hit enter, and you can see that we have a condition until 10, but it basically prints out till 5 only. And why is that so? Because when it reaches 5, it prints it, it checks it, and then 5 is equal to 5, I is equal to 5, then it breaks it. Okay, breaking means that it breaks out of the if condition and the while loop basically. Okay, so now after while loop we don't have anything, so that's why it was like done. Okay, so after that the program didn't execute anymore. So the other example that you can have is that you can basically skip any number. using the continue statement as well. So for example, if you have here this and you want to basically write here continue, okay, if you write here continue, it would skip 5. Okay, so all you have to do is you have to make sure that you print it after the if statement, okay, so that it skips it. So basically you just write here print I, and you want to increment it beforehand. Okay, so you just write here I plus equals 1. Okay, so you save it, you go ahead and you try to run your code again, and now you can see it's starting from 1 basically, but it is printing out 2 because we are incrementing it, okay, here. So it gets incremented and then it prints out. So now we are having the output from 2 till 10, but 5, if you see, 5 is missing, right? So why 5 is missing? Because at the 5 we did the continue thing and it continued the loop and it skipped this line. All right, so if you've got the point, so then you can have basically if else statement inside the while loop as well. Okay, so go on, do some exercise and you can work with while loops. All right, so now let's move on to the next question or the next topic, which is write a file. Okay, so writing a file in Python is different. Okay, so all you have to do is that you have to go to your script, and here you can have a variable, let's call it file, or maybe file in capital, and then you can have have here a built-in method or a built-in function which is known as open. And the idea is that on our desktop where we have this script, we have no text file. So if we write here any name, it would basically create that file. Okay, so we just write here demo and demo.txt, and then what we can do is that we can assign it a function which is essentially w, write, and you can have here r as well, which is like reading function. Okay, so if you want to read, you would have here r, and if you want to write, you would have here w, or if you even want to rewrite from the beginning, you also would have w. But if you want to append in a file, and if a file is already there, then in that case you would write here a. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now after that, what you're going to do is that you're going to write inside the file. Okay, so what you can do is that you can write here file dot file is the variable basically, so you'd write here file dot write, and inside here you can write anything that you want to write inside the file. So currently you can write here currently I am writing inside the file and this feels great. Okay, so you have that, and now what you are going to do, once you have written inside the file, at first you have opened it, you have written it, and now you're going to close this file. Okay, so how do you do that? You'd write your file dot close. All right, so now we just save it and we go to our terminal, and first of all we ls here, we don't have any file here, we only have hello.py. So now we try to run our script. So we run it, there are no errors, it means that by now the file must have been created. So we write here ls, and now you can see that we have demo.txt here. So if we nano it, if we go inside the demo.txt, you can see that we have written inside the file. Currently I am writing inside the file and this feels great. All right, so we come out of this file, and there is another thing that we can do. If we want to read this file, which is essentially our next topic, let me just go here, which is a read a file topic. So if you want to read it, how would you do that? That is fairly simple. What you have to do is that you have to open the file, but all you have to do is that you have to write here r. Okay, and obviously we don't want to write inside the file, so I'm just gonna comment this line. The comment means that it really means nothing here. Okay, and after that what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to write here let me just print here print, and then I'm gonna write here file dot read. Okay, so I just do that. I save it, I go back, I try to run my program. Essentially, I hit enter, and you can see that currently I am writing inside the file, and this feels great. So basically it has read it. Okay, so this was the file's content. So let me just show you right here. I go here on my desktop and I have demo.txt. I open it up. You can see that I have currently I'm writing inside the file, and this feels great. So what I do, I just copy this line like multiple times, okay, and I just save it. All right, so after saving, what I'm gonna do, that I'm gonna save my program as well, or the script, and I'm gonna go here and I try to run my script again. I hit enter, and now you can see that we have like multiple lines. All right, so that's how you basically read a file and write a file. Hope you've enjoyed. Okay, so the next topic is classes and objects in Python. So we're not gonna go into detail. I think we would create an object-oriented programming course. In that, we would discuss classes and objects with detail. Right now, we just discuss a simple example in which we would just create a simple class, and we could just call the object or something like that. So if we talk about Python, it is an object-oriented programming language, okay? So almost everything in Python is an object with its properties and methods. So a class is like an object constructor or a blueprint for creating objects. So in order to create a class, you have to use the keyword class, all right? So the example of that would be this that I'm going to show you, right? Okay, so what I would do, I would just use the keyword class to create a class. So I have here my class, and then I call it, let's say, class or my class or m class, let's say. So all right, so class m class, and then I'm gonna have a colon here, and inside the class, let's say I write here a equals 600. And what I'm gonna do is that now I'm going to create an object of this class. Okay, so that would be like coming out of the class. All right, so because this means that now in class is like here, it's over, right? So the indentation basically speaks for itself. So if I would write something here, that would be the part of the class, and if I would just write something here, that would not be the part of the class. All right, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create an object of this class, and I'm going to use it to print out something. So what I would do, I would just write here obj1, and I would write here equals to, and then I would write here m class. All right, and that's how you create an object. So now one object has been created, which is essentially obj1. In different languages, you have different ways of creating an object and a class. So in Python, you create an object and a class in this way, and in Java specifically, you have other ways. Like for example, in Java, you write m class as a data type, and then you write obj1, and then you write an equal sign, and then you write the new keyword, and then you write m class again, okay, and then you put a semicolon. So that was the syntax of Java, and this is the syntax of Python. So there might be a difference in the syntax, but the logic is all over, is same globally for all the computer programming languages. All right, so now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come here and I'm going to write here print, and then I'm going to write here obj1, which is an object of the class, which means that this obj1 is referring to this class here. And I can have actually two variables here. Let's say I have here b as well, and b is a, let's say, 200, and then let's say I have a c variable, which is a string. Okay, so let's call it, this is a sentence. All right, so now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write here obj1 dot a, it would print out 600, and if I do something like print obj1 dot b, it would print out 200, and if I print obj1 dot c, it would print out the string. So I save it, I go back to my terminal, I clear it, I try to run it, and now you can see that this is what I've got. So these were the like three variables that these were in the class. but you can see that I've created an object. Now this object is basically a copy of the class. Okay, so whatever this class contains is now stored in the obj1, and I can call it anytime I want. So I write here obj1.a, so it basically fetches this one, a, and if I write here obj1.b, it fetches this b. If I write here obj1.c, it fetches this c. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. That was fairly simple. So now I save it, and I go ahead, and now I try to discuss other topics. So the next topic is functions. Okay, so the next topic is functions and the return statement. Okay, so we're gonna discuss this kind of like together. So the functions, if we talk about, a function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. Okay, so you can pass data known as parameters into function as well. So a function, it can return data as a result as well, which is related to the return statement. So you can ask that why do you need functions? So the idea is that when you have multiple lines of code, like hundreds and thousands lines of code, if there is like, let's say, 1,000 lines of code, that would be repeated, let's say, 10 times in 100,000 lines code. So in that case, this is like total 10,000 lines of code, okay, in total, right? So you don't want to repeat that. Rather, what you want to do is that you just want to write it once, like you write 1,000 lines once, and then in the code, wherever you need those 1,000 lines, you just write one line, and that is basically you're calling that function. And when you call that function, after calling it, you would get the result as 1,000 lines. Okay, so it's like making a copy. So that one line would be equivalent to those 1,000 lines, and in total, guess what, instead of having 10,000 lines in 100,000 lines code, you would have 1,009 lines. Okay, so that really increases the quality of your code as well. Okay, 1,009 or 10,009. Okay, so it your choice totally. So that's why functions really come in handy, and it could work for you. It could make your code way faster, and it could optimize them really in a funnier way. Okay, so I hope you've got the point about functions, that why do you need to use it. So when you talk about creating a function, it's all about syntax. Okay, so different programming languages have different syntax for functions. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create our first function. Okay, so I'll just write here def, which is essentially a keyword that you need it. Okay, so this is a keyword. You are gonna write it as it is with every function that you write. And now this is the fun part. So this could be like anything. Okay, so this is like more like a variable. Okay, so you can name it whatever you want. It's totally your choice. Okay, make sure whatever you name but whatever name you write here, you have to have brackets here, these round brackets, and this column. This is a part of a syntax. Okay, so indentation in the function is very important as well. So just say we write here hello, this is a function. Okay, so we have written it here, and now we have successfully created a function. Okay, the function is just a block or piece of a code that you can repeat multiple times. Okay, so right now we just have one line inside the function, and that's what we're gonna do. So we just call this. Okay, so in order to call this function, all you have to do is you have to write here the name of the function and then the round brackets. So the name of the function is funcs. Okay, so make sure you write the exact name. It's case sensitive, it won't recognize if you write any other name. It would give you an error. So we save it, and now if we go here and if I try to run my code, you can see that it says hello, this is a function, right? So what if we call this function multiple times? So let's say we call it like 4 or 5 times. Okay, so now if I save it, let me just clear it, I try to run my program, and you can see that it has printed out like this thing 5 times. Okay, so yeah, that's like it. And that's how you call a function, and this function was like without an argument. Okay, so you can have a parameter as well. So let's say that we want to have a parameter of the function as, let's say, color. Okay, so we have color here, and this is like an argument. All right, so inside the print statement we write here my favorite color is, okay, and then after that we write here a plus sign, which means that we are adding into it. Okay, so this is a variable, so we are writing it. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna call this function, and now one more thing, that I'm gonna give it an argument here. The value is a must. Okay, so my favorite color is, let's say, black. All right, so we save it, we go here inside our terminal, we try to run it, and you can see that it says my favorite color is black, right? So you can see that there is no space in here because when I was writing the script I didn't give a space, right? So what I can do is that I can do something like this. So if I save it now and if I run my code again, you can see that it says my favorite color is black. So now let's try changing the color. Let's say my favorite color is green. Okay, so if I save it, I go back, I try to run it, you can see that my favorite color is green. Okay, so that's how you basically write a function with an argument. As far as the return return thing is concerned, you can also have that. So for example, let's say that if I want to return a value, we have color here, so let's change the argument to, let's say, a, and let's say that I return the values. For example, whatever a is, I want to return it using the return keyword, and I want to multiply it with, like, let's say 2. Okay, 2 steric a. It means that whatever the value that you would give inside the argument as a, it would be multiplied by 2, and then it would be returned in the function, and then that would be the value that you would have. Okay, so for example, in here I'm gonna call 2. Okay, so I would just write here, I would call here a function and I would pass a value inside here 2, and then I would just simply print it. Okay, so let me just print it out. Print. Alright, so if I save it, I go back here, I should get 4. So if I run my program, you can see that I've got 4 here because I have returned 2 steric a. So which means that whatever value I put here, that would be multiplied by 2. So if I put in here 8, that would be multiplied by 2, and the result would be 16. Okay, so that's how you return a value. All right, so you can write more complex codes to return a value as well, and that's what we would do when we'll basically create a calculator in our next topic. So now let's move on to our last but not the least topic. It's you can say it's kind of a little project that you're creating after learning. So now, without a further ado, let's start. Let's go ahead and let's code. So in a basic calculator, we have like 4 functions, and that is, like, one is add, the other one is subtract, the third one is multiply basically, and the last one is divide. All right, so let's go ahead and let's try to do it. So what are we going to do? First of all, that we are going to create 4 functions, and one of them is going to be add, the other one is going to be subtraction, and the other one is going to be multiply, and the fourth one is going to be division or divide. All right, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write here divide, defining, and then I write here add, and then I basically give here 2 arguments, a and b, let's say, and then I put a colon here, which is a part of a syntax, and then basically I return a plus b. So for example, if the 2 arguments are like this and the add function it's been called, it means that I want to return a plus b. Okay, so once you have done that, now let's copy this, or maybe you can create a subtraction function. Okay, let's call it sub, and in here you're gonna have 2 arguments again, and now this time you're going to return a minus b. Okay, so I think there we have the spelling mistake, so we'll just write here return. All right, so return a minus b, and then we would have the same thing for multiply. Okay, or multiplication, or let's call it mult. All right, and in here we have A and B, and in here we would return A steric B. Alright, so once we have done that, what we can do is that there is another function left actually, and I've been leaving colons, so do not forget these little things because they could be like real pain. Alright, so now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna write here define, and then I'm gonna write here div, and I'm gonna write here a comma b, and then I'm gonna write here colon, and after that I just basically return a and then division, and then I write here b. Okay, so we have these four functions here, and now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna take the input from the user, if that they want to choose that whatever they want to do. Okay, so first of all I'm gonna have here multiple print statement. So inside these print statements I'm gonna write here first of all select desired operation. Okay, so then I'm gonna write here like print yes, I'm gonna write here one, write or press 1 for addition, and then I can basically take the input for other ones. So I can write here press 2 for subtraction, press 1 and actually hit enter, and hit enter for addition, press 2 and hit enter for subtraction, and we can basically simply copy it and we can paste it for multiplication as well. So press 3 and hit enter for multiplication. Okay, so you can write here multiplication, and then we can write here press 4 and hit enter for division. Okay, so we are creating a simple calculator, so we just write here 4. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna write here the choice. Okay, so I'm gonna have a variable here and I call it selection or select or whatever I want to. So then I write here equal sign, and obviously I write here enter the first number. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that the input basically in Python, as I've told you when we were talking about the inputs, even if it takes a number, it basically converts it into the string. Okay, so we have to typecast it in order to create it as a number. So let's say we typecast it, but before that I'm gonna take as an input. So I write here input, and then I write here enter your choice, enter your choice 1, 2, 3 or 4, okay, whatever it is. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to have here the input. Okay, so once I have it, so now after the user has selected the choice, the operation, then I want to take the input. Okay, so now I'm gonna write here number 1, and I write here equal sign, and then basically I typecast it as float. Okay, so I write here input, and then I write here inside that enter first number. Okay, and then I write here in the same way I write here number 2 equals float, and then I write here input, and then I write here enter second number. Okay, enter second number, and basically I'm typecasting it into the float, and I'm storing them in the number 1 and number 2 variables. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have if conditions. Okay, so what these if conditions would do is that we're gonna basically see that which is the selection made by the user. Okay, so for that I'm just gonna go a little bit up, and in here I'm going to write the code. So I just write here if, and then I would write here selection, which is the variable, and then I'm gonna basically compare it to 1. Okay, so if the selection is 1, then I want to print out like print, and then I write here the addition operation has been performed, and the result is, and then I put colons here, and the result would be I would just put a comma here, and then I would just simply write here add, and add is basically calling the function. Okay, so the name of the function is add, and then I would write here number 1 and number 2. So these are the two arguments that I'm gonna pass. Okay, then I would have else if, and then I would have the selection again, else if the selection is equals to 2. Then what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna print almost the same thing, but I'm gonna call the subtraction function. Okay, so I will just copy this, okay, and I will just go ahead, I'll paste it. Alright, so once I do that, I'm gonna write here sub for subtraction, and I'm gonna say here the subtraction operation, the subtraction operation has been performed, and the result is this. Okay, then I'll call this function. Then I would see the selection, if that is like 3, then what I'm gonna do is, let me just copy this, all of that, and just like paste it right here, and I write here, let's say 3, and then I say the multiplication. Okay, multiplication operation has been performed, and the result is, then I'm just going to call here the function, which is essentially mult for multiplication, and then I'm gonna again paste this, excuse me, and then I'm gonna have here 4 as a selection, and then I'm gonna say that the division operation, division operation has been performed, and the result is then I'm gonna write here div for division. Alright, so when I have done all of that, and if the input is like something else, then in that case I can write here else, and I can write here let me just make it go away. So I'm gonna write here print, and then I'm gonna write here the input is not 1 2 3 4, okay, or is invalid. Alright, so now I basically save it, so we are pretty much done here. So let me explain to you the code first. In fact, I would run it and then I'd explain it to you. Okay, so we are done writing our code, but there is one thing that if you're working with Python 3, then in that case this input function, it works perfectly fine. But if you're working with Python 2, as like we are doing, so in my system I have Python 2 installed, okay, 2.7.16, okay, that is the version at the time of the making of this video. So for that I have to write here raw underscore input, and the thing is that I have to do the same thing for here as well and here as well. Okay, so the selection I have cut it short to S only so that it is easy for you to read. So I have just here S. Okay, so this is the thing which matters. Okay, so I will run it and then I'll explain to you the code. So I just save it and I go back here to my terminal and I try to run my code. So you see here it says select the desired operation. So press 1 and hit enter for addition, press 2 and hit enter for subtraction, press 3 and hit enter for multiplication, press 4 and hit enter for division. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to hit 2. So I hit enter and it says enter first number. So I'm going to hit 25 and then the second number is going to be 25 as well. So I hit enter and it says the subtraction operation has been performed and the result is 0. Why it is 0? Because I chose 2 and then I have 25 and 25, which actually results in 0. Okay. If I try to run the program again, now this time I select the addition operation, I select 25, I select 25, and now you can see that it says the addition operation has been performed and the result is 50. Alright, so now if I like run the program again, I select the third option, I have two numbers, okay, 2 and 4. Okay, so it results into 8. It says the multiplication operation has been performed and the result is 8. So I just clear it up. Okay, I run my program again. I select the fourth option, which is division. The first number is gonna be 8, the second number is gonna be 2, and guess what the result is gonna be? It's gonna be 4. Okay, so it says the division operation has been performed and the result is 4. So our basic simple calculator is working just perfectly fine. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna explain to you the code now. So first we create this function in which there is nothing happening, just it's just like about the addition. Okay, so whatever the arguments the user is going to give, it's going to return the addition if you call the add function. The same thing is for the subtraction. It returns the subtraction version excuse me, it returns the subtraction function of these two arguments that the user would give. And then we have the multiplication function, and it returns the multiplication version of these, like a strike b. Okay, then it returns the division version of a and b. Okay, so these are like we are creating a function, and then the function is basically we are calling it later on. Okay, so then we just simply print out like 4 or 5 lines. These are just the instruction for the user to read and see how this calculator works. Then we are taking the input and we are telling it to enter like a certain input, 1, 2, 3 or 4, and then we are taking the input, two numbers, those two arguments that we are gonna need for these 4 functions that we have. So we take the choice, we take the numbers, and then we have if else if statements. Okay, multiple if else if statements. So now what we do, if the choice is number 1, we know that we have to call addition function. So we take those two inputs, put in there, and we print this one and ignore the rest. And if the choice or the selection is 2, we ignore the rest. Okay, and we call the subtraction function. We put these two inputs in there, and the function returns the value after subtracting these two arguments. Okay, so if the selection is 3, then it basically execute this block and ignores every other thing, and then the result is multiplied. The arguments are multiplied and the result is returned. And in case of 4, in the case of the selection of 4, it is going to divide those two arguments and it is going to return you the result. Okay, if you put any other number, let's say we run it again and we just put in any random number, let's say 8, it says enter first number. So we write here 25, 23, and you can see that it says the input is not 1, 2, 3, 4 or is invalid. Okay, so we know that the input was not valid here, the choice. So we can write here that the selection is not. Okay, that would be way better. Okay, anyway, you got the concept. What was the concept behind building a simple calculator? I hope you have liked this course, you have enjoyed it, you have learned a lot of new things. If you have any questions, ask that in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends who want to learn this knowledge for free. For more such videos, for more free content, be sure to subscribe to our channel. And for written articles, you can always visit our website linuxin.com and find multiple articles there for free as well. I hope you have enjoyed this. Have a nice day. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.